Hello there and welcome to No More Mondays, the show where we believe humans still matter, mediocrity is expensive, and ownership changes everything. As always, I'm your host, Angie here with a special edition of the show as part of our Scary Good Summer Showcase. We're throwing it back and featuring episodes included in my book, Scary Good, Discovering Life Beyond the Sunday Scary, because they are just that good and that timeless. So whether you've read the book or not, side note, pick it up if you haven't, I hope you enjoy this episode to give you a little push through the week and the summer to maintain momentum in whatever you're working towards. Enjoy!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to No More Mondays. I am your host, Angie Callen, and I've got a real legit question to ask all of you out there. Are you living your life for you? Or are you living life on somebody else's term? Or maybe even worse, living life according to what society tells us we should be doing with our lives, even though it might not align with who you are and something just isn't jiving? Well, I have a guest for you as I bring Shannon Arner to the show. She and her husband, Jerry, decided to take life by the horns and live it on their terms. After owning a business that had them working 24/7, the two realized there was more to life and they went after it. They downsized, they simplified, they moved to the coast where they really wanted to be, embraced tiny living, which should tell you right off the bat why she and I get along so well, and founded Arner Adventures to help others do the same. If you feel like you could get more out of life and stop letting life happen to you, keep listening as Shannon and I chat about everything from adventure to our mutual love of rescue pitties, tiny living, food, and more. Shannon, welcome to No More Mondays.
Thank you. No more Mondays. No more Mondays. No more Mondays. I love it.
That's what we're all about.
That's right.
I've got to give everybody out there a little bit of a teaser. I was on Shannon's podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We recorded it a few weeks ago. However, the stars are aligned and it dropped yesterday.
Yes.
So I will allow you to hit pause one time as you listen to No More Mondays, everybody, and go pull up Arner Adventures podcast with me because there's going to be a lot of, I have a feeling you could probably listen to them in either order because it's going to be kind of the flip sides of the story. So we had a great conversation when we recorded, and I'm excited to continue here.
It's just a flow. You can do one and then just switch to the other, or it's just a to be continued,
Totally.
And you just keep it going. It's going to be great.
We're just gonna overtake your podcast feed this week, everybody.
Yeah.
So let's start. For those of you that haven't listened to Arner Adventures yet, let's give them some context. Shannon, tell everybody a little bit about what life looks like today, and draw us kind of a picture of what you and Jerry have got going on.
Yeah. So I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. In 2017, picture me in the midst of a mental breakdown. Literally, I was physically and mentally drained. I said, I have to, we had a business that literally was 24/7. We worked in the pet industry. So we specialized in it's sort of like pet sitting, but it was also, we had vet techs on staff. So we did almost like home health for pets. So we kept pets in their home while their parents were away. So we also did dog walking and regular pet sitting. But if pets had special needs, we were able to take care of those things so that those pets could actually enjoy their lives and go on vacations and knew that their pets were going to be fine and they didn't have to be kenneled and boarded. So we had staff who did overnights, all of that. Well, we grew very fast. And of course, Jerry and I were backups. So if there were ever any issues, we got up in the middle of the night. We went. So it was literally 24/7. And because we loved animals, and we still do, but because we loved these pets and had them on our client caseload for years, they were like our family. Well, a number of things happened throughout that time, but as we grew and grew and grew in 2017, a number of things happened. And one day I said, I have to get away at least for the day. I have to at least go away for the day. And we drove here where we live now in Beaufort, North Carolina, and we went to the ocean. And I literally was sitting in the surf of the ocean, and the waves were just literally crashing on me. You cannot make this up.
Oh no, and we have a picture. I have a picture of this.
Okay. They were crashing on me, and I did not care if it carried me out. I just said, I can't do this anymore. If it carries me out, I just don't care. I cannot go back. And Jerry and I just sat there and looked at each other, and I said, I just can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. And we consulted a business broker who we've been talking to along the way. And I said, I don't care if we give this business away. Like, I love this so much, but I can't do it anymore. And there's a lot of psychological stuff that goes into, and you probably know this about, when you have so much empathy and compassion fatigue and all of that. But, hindsight's 2020. But we came back, and in the span of a few weeks, we sold that business, our client caseload. We sold the client list. We sold the business. We put our house on the market. In 24 hours, we sold our house. We sold most of our stuff because it was an all cash buyer who wanted us out in 30 days. So we put all of our stuff on Facebook Marketplace. We, had a yard sale. We were like, it has to go. And then we were like, oh,
where are we going?
What are we going to do? And we've always said, oh, okay, one day, we're going to be down in Beaufort. One day we're going to live on the coast, or one day we're going to live on some island. And we just started looking and said, oh, there's a 500 square foot little tiny home in Beaufort. And I think we're just going to go and rent it. And let's just go and figure it out. And we had hardly any money because honestly, we really didn't make a lot of money selling it. And we had payroll taxes. Any entrepreneur understands this. We had payroll taxes. We had to back pay all this stuff. And we came and literally had to heal. And we just had to spend time getting it together physically, mentally. And Arner Adventures was born. And it was born because we started a blog, because we got tired of people asking us by phone, by, whatever, through our family, what is happening? Have they lost their minds? They thought they were watching a train wreck is what it was. It was crazy.
And this is where that idea of like society, your family, it's people who love you. So that it is out of love that the concern comes. But this is also where you have to be very careful of letting that advice weigh too heavily on your decision making to the point that it's actually harming your ability to move forward. And these kinds of changes don't come without big risk. Like, for all intents and purposes, you guys cut the cord and made a huge leap of faith.
100%. And I started that business in college. So without completely giving my age away, I had that business for over 10 years, almost 15 years. And it was a very difficult decision. So when I say, yes, I was sitting in the surf and said, I can't do it anymore, it's not like I made that decision right that moment to, okay, boop, cut it. But it literally all happened very quickly. But I had been making the decision. But had I not made that decision, I wouldn't be here today. I mean, there's just no way I would be here. But I think I started that business out of something that I loved. But there's something that you said on our podcast that I think is brilliant, and we can get more into that, is I think that you should cultivate your career around what you love and around your lifestyle. Like, have a lifestyle and then hopefully have a career that fits that lifestyle and make money out of it. I definitely was doing that job to pay for college, and I loved it. But then I got to where I did not love it. I didn't like the work of it. I wish I would have just been like, okay, let me volunteer. And I didn't know enough about the business sense to understand the growth of it and all of that. So again, hindsight is 2020. But
when I feel like the picture that you painted with the beach and the just like I can't is what real burnout looks like. And you were there. And like you said, if you and Jerry had not made the decision to make changes, and I actually think that like you needed the fast change, right? You were like, there wasn't much wick left on that candle. And it probably took that wick just to get that last 30 days all taken care of. And that's what burnout looks like. And if you go too far, you can really, really damage yourself. And I think that because, to tie this together to what you mentioned about the life career thing, we are very, very good at that in America because we have a culture that is very much live to work, not work to support your life. And I'm a big fan of design your life and figure out what you want from it and find a career that will support it, which is what you two did in moving on from this. And you were kind of figuring that all out in real time. And one of the questions I kind of have for you is, what kind of conversations were you guys having in that, after the house was sold and you're in your tiny house at the beach? We're going to talk about tiny houses, everybody. But you're at your tiny house and you're like, okay, wow, well, there went the last 15 years. What are we doing? Like, what did those conversations look like? How did you start taking steps forward to define the new phase?
Well, the first thing is that honestly, the first thing we kept doing was pinching ourselves. Like, we kept saying, we live at the beach. Like, we live
and we're
here.
Free.
And yes, and it was like, we don't have clients calling us today. We don't have staff we have to check on. So we were definitely, it was at first sunshine and rainbows. Like, it was honeymoon.
Well, that's your healing period you mentioned. You needed sunshine and you needed a honeymoon period.
Yes.
To enjoy the new life and kind of recoup.
Yes. And we definitely were still, I mean, we were grieving different things, different losses we had experienced. So we were still doing that. And then we were sort of like, okay, we should look and see what resources we need for therapy. And we knew we needed those types of things. And then we just started being more active. And then it was like, well, okay, what are we going to do to get money? What are we going to do to...
Oh, yeah.
Because now we have bills. Now, I will tell you, with the smaller life and simpler life and tiny living, the bills were much less and it was much easier as far as that goes. But we were just like, well, I don't need to do a whole lot. And so it was sort of like, well, let's just, okay, if we work somewhere here on the coast, that's fine. If we just, find just jobs that are outside, and it just didn't matter so much. It was just like, we just need to do something to bring some money in, and then let's just heal. So the conversations were literally, let's really get outside and enjoy where we live in order to heal. That's what the conversations were. And it was also sort of getting to know each other again, because we were like two ships passing in the night with the other business.
That's a really good point. It's a totally whole new phase. And I am sure there are people out there going, oh, I know what two ships passing in the night sounds like. For the first almost 10 years of my relationship with Jim, he worked in restaurants. And so there were, and I've always had kind of, let's call them day jobs. There were periods of time where we would see each other from like 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on a Saturday. And that was like our time together. And it just starts to feel like, well, no offense, Jim, but like, it's like almost, what's the point? We don't even get to coexist. And so I'm sure that was just so refreshing to kind of like re-engage and lean back into your relationship because you had time to do that.
100%. 100%. That's exactly what it's. And we still say that now. I'm like, how do we have conversations now that we're still learning things about each other and we've been married this long? Well, it's because we had this business together and we were not talking. We were only talking about the business. And if we went to dinner, it was like, okay, so can you call this staff member and tell that, can you go and train? How are we going to do this? And it was never.
They were always business meetings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Never.
This definitely strikes home. And we are already, it was Shannon and I, when you listen to the episode of me on Arner Adventures, like through the course of the episode, Shannon and I are like, really? You too? I mean, they're like parallel lives here in lots of different ways, even some timeline stuff that I didn't know before. But I also think we have to figure out, Jim and I, we have to are very careful and intentional about like today, like this is a business, because he works for Career Benders, all of you out there. He's literally sitting here listening to this conversation because he produces No More Mondays. And so I need to be careful what I say about him. But it's, you have to be, if you're in business or you have like a spouse who works for you, you have to be really intentional about when to talk about business and making sure you do and talk about kind of like other things. And we learned that the hard way in a similar kind of, we actually bought a business together that failed and we went bankrupt around the same exact time that you guys were selling off and moving to the beach. I was like, wow, timeline wise, we were just like in parallel universes, which is why we went tiny. So let's go there.
The schoolie.
Shannon, I'm excited.
I love
to
the schoolie talk.
Yeah, we're going to talk about minimalism, and for all of you that like to watch Tiny House Nation on House Hunters, the next few minutes is for you. Because I don't actually talk about this much on this show, but Jim and I lived in a micro tiny house for 4 years. He actually sent me a chat when you said you moved into a 500-foot tiny house. He was like, "That's not tiny," because ours
wasn't the schoolie.
It was 225 square feet. We built it in a bus. And we lived in it for 4 years until we bought our house in July, which was kind of our goal of the tiny living. It's a really interesting experience that in a way, I think almost all Americans should kind of go through. Totally. Because minimalism in however you want to define it is such an interesting experience because you just realize how much you don't need when you don't have room for it. And I also think that then translates to like what you end up having you make up for in space of non-physical things, mental energy, physical energy, emotional energy. What is your experience in that?
So I always say that I was two people. Jerry kind of goes along with the ride. Like he has always sort of been the person that didn't need a lot of stuff. No, he enjoyed it. And he will tell you right now that he loves our lifestyle that has less. I was two different people. Like something clicked. I don't know what happened. I was the person who converted in our old Shannon, old house, converted one of our bedrooms into a closet. Like I made it into a closet. I had somebody come in, made it into a closet. Now it makes me want to vomit thinking about that. Like, who was that? Like that was but you go through things to become the person you are now. But now I say all the time, minimalism helped also reduce my mental clutter. Like if I have physical clutter in my life, you can almost guarantee that the mental clutter is there. And to get rid of the physical clutter, it also helps my mental stability. Call it whatever you want. I've talked to my therapist and it can be a control issue. It can be a way of just like purging and having cleansing. Whatever you want to say, it doesn't matter. What matters is that it's something that helps me. And what helps me is having clarity, having less to worry about, having less distraction. And I think that there's so many philosophical ways to look at it too. But I think at the end of your life, no one looks and says, "I wish I had more shit." You don't say that.
That's totally true. It really does come down to like, what are you going to regret?
Yeah.
And I think I almost have this idea in my head that it's like minimalize to maximize. Maybe there's an episode title in there somewhere. But it was really interesting, I think, for our experience is that, in a way we kind of got more stuff, but it was almost for the very specific reason of adventuring.
Yeah.
And now that we live in, let's call it a normal house, which has been a lifelong goal of mine. And at 42, I finally got to make it real because the bus allowed us to do it. We are I find myself being conscious about not reacquiring tons and tons of stuff. So of course we had to get furniture and stuff for the house, but trying not to like fall back into giant consumerism of like refilling a closet with all the things that I got rid of and stuff like that. 'Cause 80-20 rule, everybody. You only wear 20% of what's in that anyway. Yeah. So it's almost like, and not, we're like totally on a soapbox. But I think the point is take stock of what in your life is taking up space and the purpose of it so that you're intentional about having it. For us, we're intentional about having paddle boards and lots of skis because we do those things 50 days a year each. And so I would say think about what you're acquiring and where it fits. That in and of itself could even be a little bit of a minimalist type of exercise without getting rid of everything.
Yeah, and just less consumerism overall. I think it's interesting, and we were talking about the soapbox, and I can totally get on a soapbox, but now you were talking about earlier, I'm going to go in two different directions here, but you were talking about earlier the husband, wife, and Arner Adventures is a business now. It generates income, from our website and all of that. It was totally unintentional. We didn't even know that we were going to be building a community off of it. But it does, and we work to create content and put out information for people to understand that it is a simpler lifestyle that can help, make your life more fulfilling. And so Jerry and I, while it is our lifestyle, we do make we do set the intent of not talking about it so much, the Arner Adventures part, outside of what I call work hours. But what I was getting to is, I think that it's interesting that so many people can really poo-poo this lifestyle, or, say, I can't do that. There's no way I can do that. Well, first of all, that's fine. It's not for you. I'm not saying our lifestyle's for you. Yet, when someone comes to visit us, or when someone comes into our sphere, they will almost always comment, gosh, it's so calming. It's so calming to be around you guys. And it's so calming. I'm like, I know, but it didn't used to be like that, did it? It used to be chaotic. It used to feel so chaotic, didn't it? And I just think that's interesting. Like, take note. Like, what it is you don't have all the crap, whether it's, the stuff in our minds or the things that were going on constantly and all just the stuff. It's just we have a more calming environment. And even if you reduce the things in your life just a little bit, you're going to just find that it opens things up so much more and experience so much more, whether it's adventure or just a walk on the beach, whatever it is.
And adventure is exactly where we're going next. So it's perfect. But I think to me, where I summarize that is, the minimalist, the tiny living is very much a physical stuff type of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think the important kind of, like, say, overarching message here is there's a difference between clutter and the things that are, like, let's say, necessary or a component of the life that makes you happy. Yes. Right. And that clutter could be responsibilities at work and stress that is distracting from your happiness. It could be physical stuff that you're putting too much energy and emphasis on because you think it makes you happy and it doesn't. It could be any number of types of clutter. And yes. I think we are very good at accumulating that clutter, whether it is tangible or intangible, without ever stopping and saying, do I need this piece of tangible or intangible clutter in order to live the lifestyle I want to have? Or is this just something I'm supposed to have or supposed to want or wear like a badge of honor?
Oh gosh, sometimes, and something I still work on, sometimes it can be boundaries. Like you don't have, yes. I tend to, it's something I constantly work on, and that is clutter. If I don't hold my boundaries with certain people or certain responsibilities, that is clutter. And it's like mental clutter, and I have to get rid of it and hold those boundaries back up. Yeah. And that's a great point that you make. That, yeah.
Boundaries is an excellent way to put it, because I think when you have the mental clutter, it then becomes very hard to be present. And we know in today's world, we are just so distracted all the time that we're kind of like never really present. And I think that your story is such an amazing testament of, like, when you remove a lot of the stress, a lot of the clutter, and you create boundaries, now you and your relationships are more meaningful and have greater value because you can be present to them because you've taken out a lot of the distractions, physical and non-physical.
Gosh, that's a really good point. You know, I told you before we got on here that my mom and I, we were all from central North Carolina, and we moved to one end of the state and she moved to the other. And she tells me that now that I've made this lifestyle change, that we have a better relationship because even though we're further in distance, we have better conversations. We make more time for each other, because before it was just so chaotic mentally. And, I just didn't have time. I didn't make the time.
You didn't make the time. I think that's a really important distinction, because we are all really good at saying, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time. You have time. It's just you choose where you allocate it.
Yes.
And let's talk about adventuring, since you have a business called Arner Adventures. I know adventure has kind of come into your life and really, I would say, help, because you made space of it. And I want to, because I talk a lot about adventuring because we live in the mountains, and we I'm going to say literally in the classic definition of adventure, are skiing big mountains and whitewater paddling and going on backpacking trips. And so I know there's probably people out there that are like, ugh, here goes Angie talking about adventures. But one of the reasons I love this idea for you is because I think we have the ability to define adventure for ourselves and bring it into our lives in a way that kind of makes sense for us, that we push our boundaries a little bit, but it's not too ridiculous. So what's your take on that?
Yeah. So when we, made this change and we started the blog so that we didn't have to deal with the conversation, we were like, you know what? This is just an adventure. It's an adventure, and we're just going to, if someone asks, are you guys crazy? Are you going off the deep end? No, it's an Arner Adventure. So we started the blog and put, Arner Adventures. But we have always said, whether it's a good thing, whether it's a challenge, whatever, we're like, well, this is an adventure. But we love to travel. We love adventures. So whether it's an experience on the water or hiking or whatever. So we kind of make this joke that even if we go hiking on a Sunday morning, we always just it's kind of a joke between us that we'll just yell, it's an Arner Adventure.
I love it.
So, but we always think if it's like our mentality that if it either happens unexpectedly, if it is no cost, if it's a if it's a trip that's planned, if it's an experience, then it's an adventure. So it could be that we go on a trip and we actually planned it and it's a vacation. I just feel like if it's something that is something that you experience in life, even our grief journey, to us later, you look back and you go, well, it was an adventure. It was an adventure because it was something we had to navigate. It was something that we worked on together, and it was a journey, and it brought us to where we are now. We experienced it. It was our adventure. So for us, it's the good, the bad, the ugly, and experience. It was our Arner Adventure. So it doesn't have to be something that we go, hang gliding today. And that's where
I draw the line there. I don't do heights things. But I love that the word experience was exactly what was on my mind. Is it's kind of that idea of experiencing something that you haven't experienced before, whether it's intentional or unintental, i.e. the journey and the adventure of this big life change that you knew you were going into a new experience, but you don't necessarily know what the adventure is going to look like until you're in it in real time. But there's this idea of experiencing something you haven't experienced before. And when you make it something that's more like an intentional selection, going to a new restaurant, eating a cuisine you've never eaten before, going on a trip or to a city you've never been to before, it comes back to that present piece, because it kind of takes the clutter away, because when you're adventuring or you're experiencing, you're really in that moment, and everything else kind of goes away, and it's very freeing.
Yes, because it's not so planned, and it's not. I used to be the one who, when we did, because I felt like we couldn't ever do it, but when we were able to leave, I would have the spreadsheet of all the things that we were going to do while we were gone. And now I'm like, yeah, let's, it's autumn. Let's go to New York, and whatever happens, happens. And now I don't think about it, and I can, be here now. I just feel like, let's be here now and let's just experience it. Whatever happens, happens. And it sounds very woo-woo, but it's just a better way of living for us.
I think that the other word we could tie to this is put a little spontaneity in your life. We are so planned, guilty as charged. Thank God I have a husband who is like the opposite of me and actually makes me go do fun things and things that I didn't put in my calendar. Otherwise, I would be like even more square than I already am. And that's where I think it is like, go do something different, do something you didn't plan, and just enjoy the ride.
Yeah. I mean, look, I still live and die by my Google Calendar. Okay. I still have everything in my
Same.
batch work days, all of that. But I still have my off times. And that's when I'm like, okay, I'm going to live in the moment. And, you still have to live your life in I mean, I still have to live my life in a structured way for work and for other things, but for the experiencing life, I want to experience it in a be here now way.
Yes, absolutely. So let's give everybody out there some advice.
Okay.
I guess what tools or actions, somebody out there is going, man, I wish I could just be more spontaneous. I wish I could just go do the thing. Like, what advice do you have for people out there who might be in that place and don't know how to take a step forward? They know they're not where they should be or want to be, but they're like, okay, what do I even do? How do they get the ball rolling?
So I feel like when people hear, and that's why I wanted to make sure that I said, we didn't make this decision in one single day, right? So I don't know if selling your house, doing everything in one day is the decision. Now, look, you did say on our podcast, and you said it here too, that if you are at a stage where you're at burnout, sometimes quitting your job right then is what you have to do for your health, right? I think if you're at that point, you've got a different decision to make. And that's where I was. I mean, I needed to make some decisions. And there's all these studies through like the Great Resignation and people who sometimes are like, I don't care how I get through it. I will work a drive-through. I will wash cars. I'll do whatever I need to do to get out of this terrible situation. Right. And so I think what you have to do is look at, and not to be negative and not to be I think the end of life is a beautiful time. I think it's a golden time. I think what you have to do is look at the end of your life and say, what will I look back on and be happy that I did? The whole thing is just why wait? Why wait on whatever it is that you want to do? And so I wish earlier we would have looked at everything that we wanted for our life and have it happen earlier. It didn't. But I think that you just look at it and say, where do I want to be? And what steps do I need to take to get there? So if it's, downsizing, you need to assess to look at the things that you don't need in your life. You need to understand that the things that you have don't encompass, if your grandmother gave you a piece of pottery, she's not in that piece of pottery. You don't need to keep it. The things that you have aren't what matters at the end of life. And so I think that you need to assess the things that you have and really assess what matters. And is that going to make a difference later? I think the biggest piece of advice is don't wait. Make things happen now and don't wait. Life is too short.
Do something. The other thing I think that comes into play here is like we are so paralyzed by perfectionism and like over analyzing things. We convince ourselves we can't do it or can't start it unless it is perfect. It is okay to not do there is no perfect way to do this. There's definitely some imperfect ways to do it. I think I did it in some imperfect ways. But just take a step forward, explore something new, do something new, learn something new. Just do something.
Yeah. What is the adage? Done is better than perfect.
Done is better than perfect. I'm a big fan of that one.
Yeah, me too.
Because if we go back to the 80-20 rule again in this episode, it is typically not worth the effort for what you get out of your last 20%, right? 80% of your results should come from 20% of the work. So
Right. I think that, and I know I have told several people this in my life, and I might have told it on my podcast before. And my family's probably tired of me telling it, but it's the truth. My grandmother passed away a few years ago, and she just, if we gave it to her, no matter what time of life this was, she kept it. And she wasn't a hoarder or anything, but she kept it. But when she passed away, we all had to go in and figure out what we were going to do with all this stuff. And so I just think it's not fair to have to go in and figure out what you're going to do with all of this stuff. And she would have really been very, very sad for us to go in and to deal with this. And so I think you just, enjoy each other's company more than the stuff.
I think it's totally true.
Have the experiences.
And I think all of this circles back to kind of what I said at the beginning of, if you're not where you want to be, it's okay to start exploring how to get to where you do. And I think that you can learn a lot from what you don't want to begin figuring out how to translate that into what you do want. Because I think that's also what kind of keeps people from taking action, right? Is they're like, well, I just know I'm not where I'm at, but I don't know where I want to go. And you won't necessarily jump that whole chasm at once. But if you're intentional, you make space for the exploration. You can start to kind of inch yourself forward. But if you keep all of the stuff and the clutter and everything that takes up all of that bandwidth, you're just going to stay right where you're at. Shannon, we're geniuses. Everybody should love us.
Let's stay up on this soapbox for a little bit.
Let's just stand around. Maybe there you go. Minimalist to maximize, a soapbox from Angie and Shannon. There's your episode title. Wonder how that one performs in SEO.
Right.
So speaking of how amazing we are, I could do this all day, especially because we have so many we could talk about food together. We could talk about rescue pitties together. There's like all these things that choosing not to have kids. Like there's literally everybody. There are so many parallels. And so I'm sad that we have to wind things down, but we're at a good point to wind things down before we get on another soapbox. So speaking of how awesome we are, where do people find you? They get Arner Adventure resources. What kind of resources are you offering? Tell us how we all engage in your journey.
Yeah. So you can go to arneradventures.com. That's ARNER adventures.com. And we share all types of resources, from a declutter challenge, and it's all free resources, a declutter challenge with 30 days. You can start at any time. You just want to do it 30 consecutive days of how to daily bite-sized tasks of how to rid physical clutter, mental clutter. And at the end of the 30 days, you've sort of created this routine of just sort of living more simpler, and then having a better mindset. We have resources for getting outdoors more, all types of resources. Then we have, because we are pet parents and, are child free by choice, we have, recipes for, dog treats. And we also think it's really important to live a sustainable life. So we have garden tips and all kinds of things about living simpler. And so there's all these studies that show, and why we moved here, about, living by the water. And so we have lots of things about living by the ocean and then protecting it and keeping it clean and, sustainability facts and all of that good stuff. So arneradventures.com, our website and blog is the home base for everything.
Move over, Marie Kondo. Here comes Shannon Arner. I love so many of the resources. I love the idea of the 30-day clutter, everybody. I'm going to throw down a challenge and encourage you all to just do it. And just don't try to plan it in your calendar. Just go do it. There's your spontaneous act. But I think that there's so many elements there of not only kind of simplifying and streamlining your life, but also doing it in a way that makes us good stewards for this place that we live. For you guys, it's oceans. For us, it is rivers, and we have a huge water issue here in the West, and protecting our winters and all those kinds of things. So I love that you bring that in as well.
Have you read the book, Blue Mind?
No, I love Nichols? When people throw out book recommendations here. Tell me more about that.
So he wrote a book about he did all this research about the studies of how important it is to, of course, protect water, but studies that show the healing properties of being near water. And even, your heart rate, just if it's even just being near bodies of water, it just reduces. And I read it right before we moved here, and I've reread it several times. It can be a little imposing. It's a thicker book, but it's well worth the read. I highly encourage you to read it.
And that's the kind of read that comes to you the first time exactly when you needed it. Like that was not a coincidence that you happened to read that right before going to the beach at a time when you're really burnt out. But even if you're didn't consciously or really know that there is statistically proven water can it does have healing properties. Just think about like how good does it feel to go to the beach, or if you went to a lake or something like that, it does. Or if you're even in proximity to water, you can't see it, but you can feel it. It is totally true. So, hey, there's another first step you could make. Plan a trip. Go to the water.
Yeah. Just go hang out by some water.
Exactly. It's funny and maybe this was an accident, but when I first started Career Benders, I had this video on my homepage, and it was me sitting by a river talking about how you should get outside to go find inspiration. How's that for full circle, Shannon?
That is. What a nice segue.
No kidding. All right. So as we kind of close things out, let's give everybody just a little bit more inspiration, even though this whole episode is inspiring to just, regardless of the soapboxes, choose the life you want to live and go after it. I think is the big, big, big inspiration here, and lots of little pieces of wisdom and recommendations on how to do it. So let's give everybody one more big piece of inspiration as we kind of say adieu. We're all about No More Mondays here, and I know you love that kind of idea too. So in your everyday life now, because I would say you made a huge change to combat the Sunday scaries, but how do you continue to do that and make sure that you continue to love Mondays a little bit more?
I will tell you, when I think of this also shows my age, but when I think of Mondays, I think of it as fresh, and I think of Outcast, so fresh and so
fresh
clean,
and so clean.
Mm-hmm. Ain't nobody dope as me. I'm
so fresh and so clean.
I think of
We're
it so
each
fresh every single Monday. I think of Mondays as fresh every single Monday. And it's interesting to talk to people who aren't in a place where they're happy, and the percentage of the people who
it's gotten worse recently. It was 70%.
And it makes me sad.
Yeah, it was 70%, which I think is still normal. But the additional, more troubling statistic is now that 40% of people wouldn't wish their job on their worst enemy, which effectively means that 40% of employees are in hell.
I mean, that's terrible. So I have learned that Sundays, I used to have the Sunday scaries, but I used to feel like I had everyday scaries. But Sundays is you have to embrace every single moment for what it is to come. And every hour, not even just day, but every hour, every minute. But Mondays for me is a fresh start. And even though every day is, Monday is a fresh start. And if you start your morning, if you wake up and the first thing you do is start it with dread, the whole day is going to be dread. You can't start it that way. So no matter what kind of job you have or what kind of life is going on, I encourage you every single morning to get up and have a gratitude practice and think of, 3 things that you are grateful for, even if it's breathing that day, even if it's that you have shelter, even if it's that your dog is sitting beside you and how grateful you are that she's sitting there. And even though if she's begging for her food and you have to get up, whatever it is.
Little Betty White. Love Betty. Betty White lives on, everyone. She lives on as Shannon's adorable little white pitty. She's so cute.
Yeah, she's the best. She is a golden girl too. She's the best. The morning rituals and routines set the tone for your day. So Mondays are a fresh start, but every morning is a fresh start.
I don't know why. Even I used to, for a while, I worked on Sunday through Thursday, but for some reason, I always mentally have a reset on Mondays, and I think it's for 20 years in the professional world. And I'm a huge fan of morning routines, and I think if we go back to what's one thing I can do, add a morning routine to your lineup, and even if it's only 15 minutes, and you sit and you meditate or pray for 3 of them, take a walk for 5, and maybe journal your gratitude for what's left in there. 6 minutes. My math is bad. Sorry, Dad. But just incremental changes can really, really build. And I think that's what Shannon and I have talked a lot about through this whole episode. So there's lots of great stuff here. But I think the big message is, if you're not where you want to be, take a step to get you there, right?
Definitely. Don't wait.
Don't wait.
Take the step.
And it doesn't have to be the perfect
Life
step.
is too short.
It doesn't have to be the perfect step. You don't have to sell your business, your house, and all your stuff in one fell swoop, everybody.
No. No.
You can clean out your closet
But
and take a
the
bag
step
to
to
Goodwill.
do it.
Because in all honesty, that's what we did too. It was like downsize, sell it all off, get a storage unit, and move into a bus. Hey, there you go.
That's right.
If it worked for us, it could work for you. So don't knock tiny living till you try it.
You'll have to link Rio down there too.
Yeah.
So everybody can go see Rio.
For all of you that are curious, Rio does still have an Instagram channel. She has more followers than Career Bender's Instagram channel, hilariously enough. But it's a bus called Rio if you would love to see what the adventures of Jim and Angie Tiny Living looked like for those 4 years. She's still out there. Shannon, it's always so much fun to chat with you. Thank you for being here and for sharing your story and inspiring everybody out there to kind of live a life of purpose and on their terms.
Thanks for everything that you do with Career Benders. It's so powerful and so wonderful. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And don't forget 2 plugs. One, there is the flip side of this conversation at the Arner Adventures podcast, which we will link in the show notes. And if you feel like you need more tips to combat those Sunday scaries, we actually send a newsletter out every single Sunday afternoon with 7 tips on how to improve your work week. So you can head over to careerbenders.com and sign up for that if you actually want some practical tips to just kind of progress your professional development in your life. And Shannon's going to be our guest post coming up here on the next edition of Combating the Sunday Scaries. So we've got all kinds of great stuff for you.
Yay.
And as far as all of you go out there, thanks for tuning in. We always love hearing from people who are navigating their own career and life crossroads. And in the case of Shannon and Jerry, they're helping others do the same. So Shannon, thanks again for being here and being part of the No More Mondays movement.
Thank you. Thank you.
And for all of you out there listening, I would love for you to subscribe to No More Mondays and Arner Adventures, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us 5-star ratings. It's a huge help as podcasters like Shannon and I continue to do what we do and bring you inspiring stories and resources to inch yourself forward in life and career. If you want to leave us comments, feedback, drop guest suggestions, or grab all the links and show notes and book recommendations from today's show, visit us online at nomoremondays.info, and I will see you next week for another episode of No More Mondays podcast. Thanks for joining us for another episode of No More Mondays. Tune in next week as we bring you more insights and actions to help you improve your professional life and find career satisfaction. Don't forget, visit us online at nomoremondays.info for all the details, show notes, and recommendations from this episode. No More Mondays, we drop new episodes every Wednesday. No More Mondays is brought to you by Career Benders, Inc. in partnership with executive producer Jane Durkee. For more information about career coaching, resume writing, personal branding, recruiting, and entrepreneurship coaching services, visit our website at careerbenders.com.